Hi everybody, welcome to the Family Kids Paint Special. We are going to be creating this painting, but in the two canvases. I just did the sample on one canvas together so I didn't have to waste the big canvases, but this is what it's going to look like when you are finished. So take both of your canvases and put them side by side. Sometimes they don't fit quite in the middle properly, so you might need to change them around. You could try using the different sides to see which one fits better, and sometimes they're just made where they're not going to quite fit together all the way either. See, like that one's got more of a gap now. So just keep messing around with them till you get them together the best you can, and make sure they're lined up on the top and bottom. So when you paint them side by side, they're gonna end up matching up, okay? So the first thing you want to do is take a bigger brush, preferably a flat one if you have it, but use what you have. And you want to take white paint, I'm gonna use some off the lid here, and you want to paint the center area but a little bit lower, because on the sample the section right here that's a little lighter is what we're aiming for. So it's a little bit down from the center and a little bit over further, but you don't really have to go over further so much because we have more room to work with and the two birds are going to be side by side. So when I did this one, the birds, I left a little space in the middle to show you how when you make the big one on each canvas, you're going to have one bird on each canvas at the end, not together on one canvas. So take some white paint and I'm just going to do this just to show you about what area you're shooting for, but just cover an area about that big or so with the white paint, a little bit off center. Try to keep it nice and thin too, and also don't forget to go in the middle. When you do the two paintings like this, it's better if you also paint the sides, all the sides, because if they don't match up together and you have a gap, it doesn't look good seeing plain canvas in between them. It looks much better to have some painting in between. Okay, so after you do it with white, cover it in a little bit of the white. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a tiny bit of purple. You don't want much, so I'm just going to put a little bit on the end of my brush, and we want to do the very center where the white is. So keep them together, and you can each work on your own half, and you want to take a little bit and you just want to work it in. See how just a little bit is all you need at a time, because you could always go back and add more, but once it's down you can't take it away. So just add, blend it in, and you kind of want, this painting doesn't have the brush strokes like all going one direction, like sometimes I have you guys go side by side or up and down. This one's kind of all over. It didn't matter with the white, but when you do the other colors, you can just kind of get them wherever you want with the brush going whichever direction. It's better if you kind of have it, I kind of did like little X's, so I kind of went back and forth like that when I did my first one. So kind of just work a little bit of this purple in on each side of the canvas, each one of you. You can gradually get a little bit darker, and then don't forget to go back and do the same thing in here. You don't have to worry about it being really neat in there, but you do need the color in there, because otherwise it'll really be able to, you'll really see the difference. And if it's not still wet enough in there, you could put a little bit more white in there. And if you end up, like, see, this side got real dark. If you end up with too much dark, go back, take a little white, and try adding more white to it. And you could kind of try to lighten it up a little bit. And then just kind of blend it. Blend them so the sides kind of match each other. You don't want purple, like on this one, I have purple down further, but not on this one. So you want them to go side by side because you want the two to look like they went together. So I'm going to put a little purple on that one now. It's up to you how dark you want yours. Try not to make it too dark though, because you do want your birds to be able to show up. And that's why it's lighter in that places where your birds are going to go. So I'm actually going to take a little bit more purple and I'm going to go this way a little bit more to make it a little bit more even. All right. So now that you've got your purple down, you can go ahead and rinse your brush off. And I'm going to take a little bit of white and a little bit of the pink. You didn't need a lot of this pink, and this pink kind of goes further. So just take the white and take a little bit of the pink, and then that's going to be the next color going around. So I'm going to start where the two meet together so you can each start like where it's going to join. And kind of match it up there. And then you can also do the same thing kind of down at the bottom here a little bit. So your matches, both of them match together. And then don't forget to go through and paint the center. I'm kind of doing mine a little quick just because I don't want to take up a lot of time here. Okay, so now you can each go through and take your white and a little bit of the pink, and you can work your way out further. So you can each do your own side. It's up to you how much white you want to use. If you want more of the pink to show and less of the white, just use more of the pink then. It's up to you on how you want yours colored. You know, what shades of pink. If you want it real light, if you want it real dark. And then try to kind of blend it a little bit when you kind of have a dry brush because you got most of the pink off of it. Kind of try to blend it a little bit to soften the lines between the pink and the purple so it doesn't look like you just went from one to the other and didn't blend them together. But you don't want to cover up your purple altogether. You just want to blend the two together a little bit better. So do it when your brush is fairly dry because it'll soften up the lines. And see, if you put them back together still, they still go, even though you've each been painting your own side. So I'm going to add a little bit more pink up here. So I want a little bit more. It's up to you how much pink you want. If you wanted a bigger purple section and less pink, you could make a bigger purple area in the middle. We're going to be doing the purple in the middle, then it's the pink, it's fuchsia, and then it's going to be the red. So whichever one you want to be bolder, if you want to change how you have one darker and one lighter than mine, go right ahead. You want a bigger section of red and less pink, go right ahead. It's up to you. But just try to kind of blend your colors, your layers together. I said, so it's not a big, bold difference when you switch colors. And it's best to do it once your brush is a little on the drier side. So that way, like if my brush is full of dark pink, of the dark fuchsia, I don't want to then overlap into the purple, because then it will just turn all my purple more fuchsia. So you want to do it when there's not much paint on your brush, so you can just soften it easily rather than putting a big glob of a different color there. All right, so after you're done with your pink, however much pink you want, make sure you paint it in between. Add a little bit more. Then you want to do the same thing with the red. I'm going to take a little bit of white. I'm going to take a little bit of red and start with them together so you can do the red part. And then you can separate them and then each do your side. Don't forget the middle and the ends. Make sure you don't just do the middle side. Make sure you do all the sides around it. Okay, now, just for sake of timing, I'm not going to do the rest of my sides just because I don't want to take up all that time on the video, because sometimes then my video runs out. So we're going to pretend like I did all my sides all the way around, but you go ahead and do all your sides. And see that we're just going to fill up the rest of the canvas in the red. You can do it with less white. You can do it with more white if you like depending if you want a darker or a lighter red. I'll just do the front here where you guys can see it. All right, so if you want a darker red, use less white or use no white. If you want it to be a lighter red, then use more white. And do the same thing. Once you get most of your color off your brush, go ahead and soften up the lines where it changes over colors so they blend together nice. Move this out of the way so I can reach better. And try to keep your paint rather thin on your canvas. You don't want big globs of paint, because then you're going to have to wait a long time to get your pattern on it, because you're going to have to wait for it to dry. Now see, I have a lot of white showing through my canvas. That's because my paint is thicker and it's not getting into the little grooves. So I'm going to go through and kind of push it in. And go back and kind of go over it and fix it up a little bit. All right, so I've got one half done. Let me finish the other half. Try to hurry up here. So go ahead and finish the rest of the canvas. Moving my sample out of the way so I don't get it full of paint accidentally. Okay, I'm going to do mine real quick here. When you're all done covering the rest of the canvas, you need it to completely dry before you go on to the next step. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and come back when your painting is completely dry, we will be going on to the rest. Okay. We're going to pretend like I did all the sides, even though I only did the ones that you guys can see right here. If you're happy with it, go ahead and let it dry. If you don't let it dry and you keep doing like I'm doing and fixing it up, it's not going to dry because you just keep making the paint wet. But I'm just trying to do it so I can show you guys a finished painting. Okay, we will go with that. I'm going to pretend like mine is completely done and perfect the way I want it. I'm going to push it back together and I'm going to leave it like that to go on to the next step. So go ahead and finish painting yours. I'm going to take a minute to wipe off some of this paint. Just because I don't want to end up with it all over. And remember, baby wipes work the best for getting paint off your hands. It works better than soap and water. Okay. So we are going to pretend like mine is dry. And now we are going to paint the branches. If you have a piece of chalk, you can, if your painting is completely dry and you have a piece of chalkboard chalk, you can try to sketch it in before you paint it. I would do that, but my paint is definitely not dry. So it's up to you, but if you would like to try to do that and you have it, you can try. Otherwise, first thing we are going to do is, I'm going to take a round brush now, and we are done with all of our colors. Let me move all of those out of the way. We'll have to still use some white, but not right now. And now we are going to be using just the black. So the first thing you want to do is, if you want to sketch it in, go ahead and make the chalk lines where it's going to be. If not, you can just try sketching it in with the black paint first. So I am going to make the branch. What you're going to do is you want to go across the whole canvas with the branch, and you want it to end down at this corner somewhere. And you have to have it not too on an angle, otherwise your birds won't be able to sit on it very good. But you do want it on an angle. So I'm going to start with one line here, and don't make your branch like completely straight either. We want kind of more shape to our branch. So that's going to be the bottom piece of my branch. And remember, the branch has got to be bigger where it's closer to the trunk of the tree, and then it gets skinnier on the other side. So this is like where it would be more connected to the tree, and this is further away. So this part's going to be the skinnier part. And then it's going to gradually get a little bit wider. It doesn't have to be really, really wide, but probably about like that. And then we're going to have some smaller branches coming off of it as well. So I'm just kind of drawing them in right now with kind of outlining them. I'm not filling them in quite yet. So we're going to have a branch coming off here. We're going to go and fill in the little parts later. And we're going to have a branch kind of coming up this way. I'm just going to make it skinny right now, and I'm going to go back and widen it a little bit, but I just want to draw it in where it wants to be. Now we have to have room for our birds. So we're going to have one bird here, and we're going to have one bird here. So the branch that's up here, make sure you don't put it too low. But there is a branch up here as well. So I'm just going to kind of outline where it goes for now. I'm going to fill in the little branches later too, because I want to make sure my birds fit. But that's about where the branches all go. So when you're done with that, you can go back and fix the little ones. But right now, do the biggest one that goes from one side to the other, and you each paint in your half of the branch. I'm just trying to get the rest of the black off of there. I'm going to switch to the bigger brush, even though it's too big. I should have had a slightly larger brush than the other one, but smaller than this one. But I didn't get it ready. So go ahead and each do your half of the big branch. Painting it in all the way. Make sure to go back and make it a little bit down in the crack too. Put a little bit of the black in there where the branch would be, so if you see in between. And you could always, while you're doing this, adjust your branch if you decided you wanted it a little wider, a little bumpier. And then also paint the sides with the black so you know that it'll flow better that way, seeing it down, go across. And like I said, do it in between. Doesn't have to be perfect in between. Like right now, I just messed up with that little black dot by doing it. Okay, let me push them back together. We'll pretend like that isn't there. All right, so that's enough with the big one. Now we're going to take, don't forget, whenever you need to stop and pause the video to catch up, go right ahead. Now I'm going to take the smaller round brush again, and now I'm going to draw where the birds are going to go with the paint. So I'm going to start with the smaller bird. The smaller bird, and I told you this in the instructions, but I forgot to tell you before you started. I would have the kid be on this side and the adult be on this side because of the way the branch is angled. It would look funny if you put the big bird on the left and the little bird on the right when there's much more room on the left. I mean on the right for the big bird. So I would put the child bird on the left side, the adult bird, which is going to be bigger, on the right side. So draw your bird, outline him, and my first birds were not plump enough, so I'm going to try to do a little bit better this time. Just kind of like an oval or kind of a upside down pear shape, but make the kid bird, the child bird, smaller. So kind of like that, and I'm just going to do a rough outline first, and then when I fill it in, if I need to go a little bigger or a bigger, little fuller, I can change it afterward. And then you want to do Oopsie daisy, getting a wet arm here. And you want to take it and you want to make a head on your bird as well. So just do a round head on top of them. You can fill it in after. And we're not going to do the tail yet. So go ahead and after you do the outline shape of it, go ahead and fill in your birds. Remember, like I said, if you wanted to trace it out in chalk first, you could. Go ahead and paint in your birds. And then as you're painting them in, you could see if you need to adjust the shape and make it a little bigger. Obviously, you can't make it smaller. But say if you put it too big of a head on the bird, you can go ahead and you can make the body a little bit bigger to fit the size of the head. Just can't make it smaller. So go ahead and fill in both of your birds. Each one of you fill in your bird. You may need a second coat on your bird if you have too much of the background color showing through. You can go ahead and do a second coat later. Now see, I think he's too skinny at the bottom, so I'm going to make him a little bit bigger. And I don't think he's chubby enough, so I'm going to make him a little chubbier. I got too skinny of a bird. My first birds came out too skinny too. Okay, so now I'm going to do this one. Remember, you each do your own. And you want your birds to have been fairly close to each other. You didn't want like the mama bird way over here and the baby bird all the way over there. You wanted them, you know, close together at least. They don't have to be on top of each other, but at least put them close together. Okay, and when you're done, if you're happy with the shape of your birds, don't forget to add a beak on each bird. It's got a bump and I can't get rid of it. Okay, so just like that. So if you're happy with your birds, go ahead and leave them alone. If you think you need a second coat of paint because you can see some of the background through it, go ahead and give it another one when it dries or while it's mostly dry. It's up to you. And if you keep messing with it because you're just not happy with it, like I am, that's usually when you end up messing it up. So I'm not going to mess with it anymore. All right, so now since you have your branches each on your own side, you could go ahead and finish your branches. I am going to move this over so I can get to this one. So I'm going to start with down here, and I'm going to add a little bit more paint, and then I'm going to add some little branches coming out. And remember, branches don't grow across from each other, so you don't want to put another branch right here coming out. You want to put it like up a little further or down a little further. But branches don't grow exactly across from each other. So I'm going to go like that, and then I'm going to come up with another branch this way. And then you can also make little leaves. You can make them in little groups. You could either make 3 leaves on the end, or you can make 2 leaves. You can make them a little bit bigger on your bigger branches and a little smaller on your smaller branches. If you want, you can only make 1. It's up to you. Okay, I am going to leave this one there. I'm going to turn this one around so I can get to the rest of my branch down here. So both work on your own side, and then any part that's crisscrossing over into both of them kind of work on together. Okay, sliding off the table here. So my branch, this is where I put it, but it's obviously got to be a little bit bigger because it's too skinny. But I just painted it in so we knew where it was going to be. So go back and finish it. You can thicken it up. Remember, you don't want it skinnier at the bottom and wider at the top. Branches don't grow like that. And make some little branches coming out from here. And then don't forget to put some leaves on it. I had a smaller brush. I should have used my smaller brush for the leaves. Don't know why I didn't. Okay, so now that I'm done with this side, it's also going to get joined to that side. So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit and put it side by side, but upside down, so I can reach this branch and finish off this branch. So you could do that too. If you each need to do the same branch and you need to reach it, you could always turn around your canvases and do it upside down. So I'm going to widen this branch some. Same thing, don't forget to go in between, and you can put the black a little bit in there. Kind of a little trickier when you're at that seam where they're joined together. So I'm going to go a little bit past it, and I'm going to make the leaves down here. I'm just going to put 2. I was going to do 3. Okay. Ooh, that's too wide. Okay. So after you're done doing all of your leaves and all of your branches, what you want to do is you want to make some little hearts coming out from the birds because they're like chirping to each other. And I have too wide of a brush to make hearts. So you want to try to make them kind of small. Mine is way too big. You know what? I'm going to try to switch. I'm going to try to switch and do it. Nope, didn't work. Oh, a little bit smaller. So go ahead and make some heart shapes coming from your birds because they look like they're singing to each other. You need to turn it around so you're back the other way. Okay, let's do that. Turn them around, put it back together this way.